So today we're going to look at getting started with Microbit. To do that, we go to makecode.com, and in there we have a number of options. There's Microbit, there's Adafruit, there's Microsoft Minecraft, and various different options like that. We're going to choose the Microbit, and underneath the Microbit option there is a code, choose code under there, and then when that brings us into our environment, we get into a blocks editor. But as well as the blocks editor, there's also JavaScript code, and you can flick between the two, and we'll look at that when we go to the environment. So when we get into makecode.com, we've got a scripts area, which is where we do our code, where we create our code. We have a number of code blocks that we can drag across into the scripts area to code the Microbit to do various different things. So we have options there like basic, input, logic, loops, etc. And we also have an emulator which allows us to test the code without the actual physical Microbit. And this is really useful because it allows you to make sure that the code works as it should do before you actually put it onto the Microbit. It's also very useful in a classroom situation because it means that you don't have to have a Microbit for every student or for every couple of students. I've used 6 or 7 Microbits in a group of 20 plus, so it works very well in that you don't need that same amount of kit to actually get coding with Microbit within the classroom. So when we go in there, we'll see that there's a basic set of blocks, and that allows us to do things like show number, show string, show LEDs, which allows us to create our own little image, I suppose, on the Microbit. And then we can show icon, which are predefined icons, and there's various other things in there, so we'll have a look at those. Next we'll look at input, and that allows us to code some event-driven programming. So here you can do things like on shake, so when the Microbit is shaken, you can do something. On button A pressed, you can do something. There's also a button B on the Microbit, and if you can press the A and B together, and that also allows you to do something when that happens. You can also look at acceleration, accelerometer, and so on. There's a number of loops in there, repeat, while, and for, and we look at those as this module moves on. And then we also have logic, so we've got if then, so we're making decisions. If something is true, then do something. If something is true, then do something. Otherwise, or else, do something else. And we can look at equality and or, which are part of our conditions as well. So we're going to go into makecode.com now, and we're going to create a project, and we'll have a look at some of the things that we can do in there. So just to show you some of the basics within Microbit, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. We're going to, on start, show the number 0. On button A pressed, we're going to show the string Pam. On button B pressed, we're going to show a happy face icon. On button A plus B pressed, we're going to show the number 4. And finally, on shake, we're going to show LED. So now we're in makecode.com, and as I mentioned, there are a number of different options here. We're going to just click code under Microbit. And that brings us into our environment. So as I mentioned, there's a scripts area here, there's a blocks area, and there's the emulator here on the left hand side. So I'm just going to go to projects. Now when you come into projects first, if I do new project here, this is what you will see when you go into makecode.com. So you'll see that there's an on start and a forever, and this is the default that you get. I'm actually just going to get rid of these, and they just go over here, and they just go into the bin. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into basic, and what we had said that we would do within this project is that on start we would show the number 0. So if I just go down here to the end of basic, I'll find my on start. So I'll bring that across, and then I want to go to basic again, and I want to show the number 0. So here if I go back up, I'll just drag across show number 0, and I'll drop that in there. So what happens is, and you can see here on the emulator on the left hand side, it's showing the number 0. If I just click restart the simulator here, you'll notice that it clears very quickly and it shows the number 0 again. How you know that it's restarting every time is it shows you a different color. So it goes from green, now it's green again, now it's blue and yellow, and so on. So that's just restarting the emulator. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at input here. So if we go into input, we have on button A pressed, and I can drag that across. Now if we look down through the various different blocks, so we have the basic one here, And in there we've got show number, show LEDs, show icons, and we'll look at these, show string, we'll look at these later on. There's also a more button here, and that just allows us to do some other things like clear the screen and do various different things like that. If I go into input, I have things like on button A pressed, on shake, on pin 0 pressed, and so on. If I click on the A here, it allows me to bring A plus, you can choose B and you can choose A plus B. So that allows us to get those different options. So one thing you'll notice here, I have on button A pressed brought in twice, and one of them is grayed out. And that's because you can only have one block that says on button A pressed, because if you have more than one, it doesn't know which one to do. So I'm just going to bring this one across here and drop it. So here I'm going to go into input, and we had said that when the button A is pressed, we are going to show the string PAM. So I'm going to go back into basic, and I'm going to pull across show string hello, and I'm just going to click on the hello. Now what happens is, if I click off that, if I press the button A here on the emulator on the left hand side, you'll notice here that it's typing out the word PAM and an exclamation mark. One thing to notice is, because of the size of the microbit, it only puts out one character at a time, so you need to be careful. If you're putting a lot of text out, it's going to be hard for people to read it, so you do need to be a little bit careful about that. So that's our button A pressed. For our button B pressed, just go back into into input here, pull across on button A pressed, and then make it on button B. Now I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit. So this time we had said on button B pressed we were going to show the happy face icon. So I'm going to go back into basic. I'm going to pull across the icon, show icon here, and then I can click on the little arrow here and I can choose the smiley face. So there's my happy face. So when the button B is pressed, it now shows a smiley face. So if I check it again, A pressed, it's printing out a PAM. For B, it's showing a happy face. And then if I restart the simulator, it's going to show me the number 0. So that's 3 things that I've done. Now the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to go to input, pull across on button A pressed, and make it button A plus B. And this time I want to show the number 4. So I go to basic here, pull across show number 0, and just click on the 0 and change it to 4. So now you'll notice here on the simulator, or the emulator on the left hand side, we now have this A plus B here. And if I click on that button there, it shows the number 4. So the last thing we need to do for our very first program is I'm just going to go into input, I'm going to pull across the on shake, and this time I'm going to go back into basic and I'm going to pull across show LEDs, and this allows me to pick which of the LEDs within the 5x5 square of LEDs that I want to turn on when it's shaken. So I'm just going to make a very basic little sad face. So there's the 2 eyes and a little brown. So here when I shake it, and now you'll notice on the emulator again, there's an option here to shake. So I click shake and we get a frown. So we'll just do a full test here. I'm going to restart, it shows me a 0. Press the button A and that shows me the text PAM. Press the button B and that should show me a smiley face. A plus B shows me a 4, and then shake shows me a frown. Now you might have noticed there when I was pressing my button B, it had showed me a little frowny face very quickly, and that's just because of the shake, because I just hit off the shake by mistake. So that is just getting started with microbits. So in the next screencast we're going to look at some other projects that are going to allow you to work through some of the other things that are in there, and just to reinforce what we've done here. So hopefully you've got an opportunity to have a look at makecode.com and work your way through a very simple project.